by the city's web team, it will be published on our board's webpage for public viewing. All public attendees are invited to participate in the meeting at the designated opportunities. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question, please use the raise hand function on Zoom to indicate so that you would like to speak, and we will unmute your microphone for you to share. You can also use the chat feature at any time to submit a question using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So welcome, everyone. Looks like we have one attendee, and do we have any guests so far other than Miles and Brian? No, okay, looks like we have Miles Galawaki, who's with the NAC program, and Brian with the events with the city.
And Alan, we do have one guest in attendance as well. And I can unmute them if they'd like to introduce themselves.
Okay, should we get started?
Yeah, this thing, and like to hear what is happening.
Welcome.
Can we have Bing on video or what? Or not?
I don't need to. I just listening.
Yeah, but we would like to see you.
I think any guest should be viewed just like we are, as
Yeah.
well as have the opportunity to speak when appropriate.
If you're comfortable doing so, we'd love to see you, Bing. Otherwise, welcome. Thank you for coming to our meeting. Let's get right into it. Do you have any public participation? Would you like to say anything, or are you just here to view and listen? Okay, if you do have any comment, please let me know by raising your hand.
I think Lani has to unmute her again.
I can,
Is there anything you'd like to say?
yeah, no, not at this point. And yeah, my daughter and I was recently on the issues of reinstate the disability committee board, whatever. So I just think you guys did terrific job. So like the last meeting, like to see what's going on. So if you can turn on the, I can turn on the video. I can keep off whatever.
Well, we're happy to have you. And if you have any questions, you can use the chat or raise your hand, and we will unmute you and call on you. So thank you for coming. Okay, I'll turn it over to Miles, and he's going to speak about the NAC Shred event. Go ahead, Miles.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I'm Miles Glowacki, the Neighborhood Program Coordinator. So Highland hosted a shred event that went really well, and quite a few NACs have expressed interest in doing the same thing. So I thought I'd just give a brief recap of how it came about, what they did, and how it went. Kennett was one of the lead planners on it, and I want to say thank you to Kennett. She put a lot of time and effort into making it a success.
And Miles, you were so helpful too.
Thank you. It actually came from a neighbor who had shredding material and didn't have anywhere that she could take it. She had tried to go to another shredding event just outside the city limits, sponsored by, I think, a business association. And the line was too long and she couldn't get through before the truck filled up. So she came to the neighborhood and proposed doing a shred event, and she proposed to pay for the truck herself. So the NAC talked about it and thought it'd be a great NAC project and submitted a matching grant to pay for it instead of the resident paying for it herself. And she and Connect planned the event. I think it was a pretty easy event to plan. Connect's done quite a few events, so she's got it down pretty well. But I think overall, it's probably one of the easier events to plan. And then to advertise it, they did social media, and we sent a postcard to all the residents in the NAC. They did a series of events. They did 3, so we put all 3 on the postcard. And then day of, they found a great location at the Nexus Church. It used to be called something else. It only recently changed its name. It's on Paul Boulevard, right south of the public safety building. So day of the event, I showed up and they had everything ready to go. There was a line of cars, probably 40 or 50 deep by quarter of. And the volunteers went out to the waiting cars and started getting people's contact information to add them to the neighborhood list. They also asked them how they found out about it. I think it was predominantly the postcard, and then social media was the second one. A few people drove by and saw it, and a few people heard from their neighbor that it was going on. We opened the doors and it went pretty smoothly. We were able to line up kind of 3 cars at a time and unload them. They also did a food drive. So instead of paying for shredding your boxes, we asked people to bring non-perishable foods for the church's food bank and for Tualatin Valley Gleaners. They collected quite a bit. I don't know that we weighed it, but
We had 300 and, well, Bernice's got weighed and it was 144 pounds of food. So we kind of had split it right down the middle. It was probably up 288 pounds. I mean, yeah, 288 pounds of food.
yeah. And they also collected $85 in cash donations from people who didn't bring food but still wanted to contribute. And the NAC is going to turn that over to the church's food bank as well. So overall, great event. I think it really filled a need in the community because the police haven't been doing their kind of quarterly shred events that were hugely popular. And I encourage other NACs to think about doing it. It's kind of a low barrier event to get started if you haven't done an event before. I met with Terry Lawler from West Slope, and the smallest NAC is interested in doing it. I think the main thing is finding a location in the NAC or awfully close to the NAC that will work for lining up a bunch of cars and then having them move kind of in a circuitous pattern. And then day of, I think, depending on the size of the event and the NAC, you could have, 5 to 8 volunteers the day of. And for some of the smaller NACs, it may be difficult to have enough volunteers for the day of. So I may have them reach out to all the wonderful BCCI volunteers and see if they want to help out. I kind of offered you guys up when I was talking to Terry, so hopefully that's okay. And then I'll be there too to help. And if there's any questions, I'll take them. Oh, we filled the shredding about 3/4 full. It was a really good turnout, really busy at the very beginning, and then kind of a steady pace afterwards, and then really slow towards the end. People were ready to take care of it on a early Saturday morning and just get it done and out of the way. And for those of you who were around, which I don't think is very many of you anymore, it reminded me a lot of Recycle Day or Garbage Day before that. So it was fun. You want to say anything else about it, Kenneth?
Oh, well, it was 3,000 pounds of paper that the driver told us that we had brought in. So that stayed out of, garbage cans and things like that. So Yeah, no, it was, we had to cancel an earlier event, and so it was really nice to have brought this event later on, and I think it was well received. And it
hate
was
to say
nice
it.
to meet with the church. They were very helpful.
I hate to say it, Miles, but a lot of us remember the backbreaking days of the recycling days. Thank you.
And Deb Stewart had a question about what was the name of the shred company?
Northwest Shred. And they were very good. The driver, so you get the truck and a driver, and the driver is able to run a lot of the day by himself. We did help just kind of with direct traffic. And also he has the whole process on videotape. So we had a few people that were, on video, so you can actually see the container get taken up and the paper shredded, which for a couple of people meant a lot. So I highly recommend them. They were very, very seamless.
They were great. They showed up on time. The driver was super friendly and worked really hard all day long. He handled the bins, moving them back and forth. So people got out of their car, unloaded into the bins, and then once they were full, he took them up and shredded them. I think overall the total cost was under $1,000 for everything, and that included snacks and some social media outreach, and the truck, and rent for the church for the parking spot.
So the end time came before the truck filled up. It wasn't that you turned people away when
Yeah, we didn't
at the
have to
end time?
turn anybody away.
Okay.
Yeah, Highland's one of the smaller NACs in terms of population and area. I can imagine a neighborhood like the size of South Beaverton may fill up and have to turn people away. Something to consider.
And I just wanted to point out how important the postcards are. That's really amazing.
That was, I was glad to see. Definitely nowadays you do multiple sources of information is good, but the postcards were real helpful, and also broadcasted the other two events that we have coming up.
Yeah, we have a lot of
Any other questions, Ralphie?
Just a comment, when Ted Forgeron and I are volunteers for the police department's volunteer program, and we go to the shred days. They have anywhere from 2 to 3 trucks, but it covers the whole city. And I just wanted to make sure that if we do a larger NAC or open it up to 2 or 3 NACs, we may, will this provider be able to cover that with additional trucks, or will they have to make a trip or something, Miles?
I'm sure they have additional trucks. It's a large company.
Yeah,
I've seen their trucks around.
I've used them personally, and I think when you call to schedule, they ask how many office file boxes you might estimate having, and because when they do it just for residential, they charge by the cart. So there's a transportation fee that's flat to make the trip out, and then there's a cart fee, and depending on how many carts they fill up is what your final cost is. So I would assume that if you could go by this event with Highland and they only filled up a truck 3/4 full, that and they have some idea of how many people came through, you could do an estimate of whether you might need a second truck or not.
Yeah.
But I recommend them. My personal experience with them was fabulous. So
yeah, I would think with everybody, a lot of people working at home, they're going to have a lot of stuff that they want shredded. So something to consider. But yeah, I will definitely take this back to our South Beaverton and be more than willing to partner if they wanted to do more than just one NAC or monthly.
Miles, who sent the postcards out?
The city.
You
Yeah,
did.
we sent,
Oh, okay.
Yep. And we send them by carrier route, so they mostly follow the boundaries of the NAC, but not exactly. So you get some overflow into the other neighborhoods, surrounding neighborhoods, but it's not much.
Okay. Thank you.
Miles, was there any verification that people were in the NAC, or was it just, hey, whoever showed up?
Yeah,
So
and NAC events. Oh, go ahead, Annette.
Oh, we registered everybody that came through, and we were able to do a scan of that. And only I think maybe 2 people weren't actually in the NAC, but had seen the event and came back. So that, I felt that was a pretty good result, actually.
I hope they donated.
Yes, they did, actually. Bernie was really very good at getting donations from people.
We wouldn't verify and turn someone away. There's just
No,
not
we
time in
wouldn't.
an event.
And as long, especially since we were easily accommodating the people in our neighborhood.
I know too that like when the police department has done it, it's or KGW or whatever other events, they limit how many boxes each individual can bring. So that would be another way to estimate how many trucks you might need.
We included that in our information, that it was a 2-box limit, and that everybody needed it to be masked, and that people may be required to empty their own box, and that sort of thing. So
So did you actually have people getting out of the cars to do that?
we occasionally would have somebody that got out of the car. If it was a vehicle that it was difficult to get, we asked that they take the box out of the car so that our people didn't have to get into their car.
Yeah, because that's different. The police, when we take it out, so they don't want people getting run over or shredded.
Yeah, no, the setup at the church was very good, so that there was kind of a natural barrier, wasn't there, Miles?
There was, it was one-way traffic, and there wasn't a second lane to go down. The lane was only 1 car width wide. And the truck was set off, to the side. So I'd ask all the NAC people to go back to your NACs and discuss it, see if anyone's interested in getting it together. And you can contact me. I'm happy to help you plan it. And the biggest thing is finding a location. All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks,
Sorry
Ellen.
about my audio. I wasn't able to call in for some reason. So at this point, we're going to turn it over to Brian to speak about the volunteer events.
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Brian Baker. I'm from the Mayor's Office Events Program. I'm going to give you just a quick background of the Volunteer Fair event in case you're not familiar. So it started about 3 or 4 years ago, and what it consists of is the city puts an application out for volunteer groups and nonprofits to apply, and then we select about 30 to 40 groups based on how many opportunities they have available for different age groups, what type of opportunities there are, and how much of their volunteer efforts serve the Beaverton community as a percentage. So what we're trying to do for this year is plan ahead a little bit. Obviously with COVID, things are going to have to be different, and we're not sure what the event is going to look like. Typically the event is in April, which is National Volunteer Month. So we're not quite sure what that's going to look like in April. The vaccine sounds like it's coming, but I don't think in-person events are going to be likely by that time. So anyways, from what I'm trying to get from this group is some ideas, feedback, maybe some perspective on what you have heard from different volunteer groups that you may be in contact with about, are they still taking volunteers at this time? What are their most pressing needs right now, and then going into spring of 2021? And should we even do the event at that time? Maybe it's more important to have the event be in person. So maybe we want to wait until the fall or later time when in-person events can come back and do it then. So it'd be good to get some feedback from you all. Just my initial kind of brainstorming of what we could do in place of the event in April is sort of a more focused volunteer outreach. So instead of having 30 or 40 groups that we work with, we'd select maybe like 2 or 3 that are local to Beaverton and maybe have the most pressing needs at that time, and do a really focused volunteer sort of match where we work with that group. And for instance, if they're like, we need a web developer to commit to 80 hours over 2 months to help us build a website, and we need 2 drivers to help deliver food on 6 weekends over a couple months. So doing something like that where we get specific needs from them and help match them with some outreach. And that way just be as effective as possible for a few small groups instead of focusing on several. So with that said, if anybody has feedback, comments, whatever, feel free to come in with that.
I think that's a good idea, being more focused with the online thing, because you're just not going to be able to replicate a big forum where people can go to different tables and meet all the different groups. And there's breakout sessions and stuff like that, but I just don't think that's going to be nearly as effective. So doing something where you can focus on a couple groups is going to be better until maybe later this year. If we can do a big in-person thing, that would probably be my recommendation.
Well, I don't agree with that special focus stuff, because it always causes problems with who do we select and who should we do that with and so on. Instead, it could be that you actually, I think in-person event later in the year might be a good idea, but also you can always do the matching of volunteers. Like you don't need to be heavily involved there or anything. You can possibly, make something available so that any nonprofit can post special jobs that they need help with, like an emergency, and not pick something, but have them be the initiator, so that we don't have this issue with people coming in. Wanting to do it, but then get rejected for whatever reason, and that just causes upset. So anyway, like if you can make it available to multiple groups, or just here you apply, then we put that out as, as a courtesy for them, as emergency jobs or any jobs, and then in fall or winter even I would wait for the in-person event.
So Brian, do we have any idea the 30 or 35 groups that we had in the last volunteer fair? What are their needs? Do we need to do a survey of them? And would that be worthwhile to find out what they actually need? Or do we just look online and just see what they're saying? Maybe some of them are not even asking for volunteers. I don't know, but maybe we need a survey. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. We have a pretty extensive list of groups that either have applied or just kind of been on our list to contact. So is my next step, is to send a quick message to all of them that we've been in contact with, and just say, where are you at with everything right now? Are you still taking opportunities? What is 2021 looking like for you? What are your current needs? And getting that general feedback, and then basing a lot of what our efforts are going to be based on, what are their needs and what can we do to help with that.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, Brian, I know that I had emailed you with the survey thing before, and since, the main database is big and the smaller database of what the volunteer fair was a subset of that. And who knows how many of those places are still in operation and how many are in need of volunteers in the first place. And if they are, what to focus and drill down on what those needs are might be a way to do a stopgap in the spring until we can do it again next spring in person.
Yeah, definitely.
I would agree with Sharon. Is there a repository where people can go to find out about volunteer opportunities?
Yeah, I think we currently have, I have to look, but I know we have like a Beaverton, or either that or we're working on one, but like a Beaverton or like our website, like a /volunteer page. I don't know how much of that is built out and how in depth it is, but maybe that could be part of it, is just building that resource out a little bit more to really focus on highlighting local Beaverton nonprofits and volunteer groups.
Well, if people want to volunteer, they have to find a place to go to volunteer.
There are websites that do that have big listings of volunteer opportunities and things like that, but it's much broader. And I think what's been discussed here is something a little bit more targeted. So here are the 35-40 groups we would have brought in. You talk to them, see what specific needs they have, and then you could kind of facilitate more matchmaking as far as that goes. You've got a list of potential volunteer opportunities. And that sort of tides us over until we can do the full in-person fair. I think that makes sense.
Yeah, and
have a question or comments?
And it's specific to Beaverton.
Bing?
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned this. Actually, last year, my daughter's nonprofit applied for the desk, but the booth. But the pandemic happens. I am a board member of Oregon Chinese Coalition. Every year we recognize kids, their volunteer effort. There's a award called a Presidential Volunteer Service Award. So we applied to be one of the certifier. So we certify kids the volunteer hours. They have the guideline according to their age group. For example, the 6-year-old to 10 years old, you only need 50 hours to win the gold medal, and 26 hours for the bronze medal. But as the age increase, they have a different requirement. Like 15 years old, you need 100 hours for the gold medal. But if you're 16 years old, it's 200 hours per year for the gold medal. So we each year we recognize those students for their volunteer efforts. This year we just certified 28 students. I think more than half of them. I think some percentage is in from Beaverton. So last year we talked to the Beaverton School District in one of their board meetings. Before the board meetings, the district recognized the students from Beaverton School. Who are in Beaverton schools. I just wondering in community involvement, because you do this volunteer fair. Could you do one of those things like I know for the Arts Foundation, they recognize they have kids each year they doing like those talented kids. So I just wondering for the community involvement, because you focus on the volunteerism, can you do something similar like that? Recognize those kids. I think those 28 kids, we calculate their total volunteer hours is like 2,000 or something hours for the last year.
So if I'm correct, your question is if we can do something to recognize the youth that are volunteering.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely something that we could do as well. You know, I think that's definitely important, especially because it'll help maybe inspire other youth to also get active and want to volunteer, seeing some of the others that are their age that are doing that as well.
And
Brian?
speaking of youth, in your volunteer activities, we could also incorporate the Mayor's Youth Advisory Board. And I think we have a community involvement subcommittee as well as an advocacy subcommittee. So you can definitely reach out to us, and we would definitely like to help out and organize and help the youth have a voice and youth get recognized.
Darren, go ahead.
Brian, wasn't one of the criterion on, there were like 5 criterion and one had to do with youth in the selection process?
Yeah, so part of the reason, like yeah, exactly. So we select groups based off of the age ranges that the volunteer opportunities are available. So if it's, for instance, if it's a group that maybe only has opportunities for 20 and older or something like that, they may not get as many points as someone that would have opportunities for teens or youth accompanied with a parent.
Right. So that was one discrete criterion as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
All right, I'm going to move over and ask Joe, is there anything else from the subcommittee? And Lani, do you have anything else?
So it seems like the logical thing to do, Brian, is to wait till the fall for in-person volunteer fair, because it'd just be too chancy to try and organize something for April. And I think your idea of contacting groups and getting what their needs are is very helpful. And then once you get that, then maybe Sharon and I and Ellen can check in with you and see where we go from there as far as helping these groups and getting them set up for sometime in the fall.
Yeah, that sounds great. I can report back with what I find and we can see what we can do from there.
Okay, great. Thank you. That's good, Ellen. I'm done.
I was just going to add, if Brian wanted to say a few words about, I know his team, they've worked really hard to get the winter lights up around the city. And so if you wanted to say a few words about that to this group.
Yeah, so I'll be as quick as possible. So the tree lighting this year due to COVID and also construction on the fountain, instead of doing one event, we've done what's called Beaverton Winter Lights. It's 5 light displays in a few different locations in the city that you can visit any night of the week from 4:30 p.m. to 10 p.m. And it'll be running until January 3rd. And the light displays are at Beaverton City Park, the City Library lawn, the new Public Safety Center building that's on Allen and Hall, within the new police building, basically. The round amphitheater, so right across the Max tracks from City Hall, and then at Mountain View Champions Park. So again, you're welcome to visit them. They're really cool. They're some of them are physical light displays with just standard lights. Some of them are projection mapping, which is like laser light shows that are mapped to a 3D surface. So they're pretty interesting, and I encourage you all to go visit them if you can. Be safe, wear a mask, and social distance.
Brian, what specifically is out at Mountain View?
That one is so the pavilion in the park, there's sort of like a light display that's kind of added onto the pavilion. Full disclosure, that would probably be the one I would recommend the least to visit if you had to choose. The other
pretty underwhelming.
It is, yeah.
I was actually not working yesterday.
It's with a lot of the new things, we have had some issues with them. So I would, if you had to choose any of them, I would suggest maybe some of the other ones besides that one.
Okay, I was just curious because I hadn't seen that one. So like maybe next year invest in some drones.
Yeah, well, in this year, it was definitely a process trying to just revamp the event. But, you know, there's always the starter year, and then we learn from what we do, and we can always make it even more better next year.
Thanks
But
for doing that.
the other ones are really great. I think they are really super cool. Thank you. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yep.
All right, anything else before we move on? Thank you, Brian. We'll let you go. I know you have other things to do tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
All right, unless there's anything else, we're going to move on to elections. Okay, at our last board meeting, we had the following nominations for each position. For chair, Ellen Russell, myself. For vice chair, the incumbent, Joe. Treasurer, Erik Lehr. And recorder, incumbent, Jonathan. Based on our bylaws, I'm going to go through each officer position in the following order: chair, vice chair, treasurer, and recorder, and state the nomination we have received, and also ask if there are any other nominations from the floor. We will do this vote one office at a time by a show of hands. A motion will then be made to close nominations, and the BCCI will vote. All officers shall serve one-year terms beginning January 1st. No member may serve as chair or vice chair for more than 2 consecutive terms. The offices of treasurer and recorder shall have no limits on the number of terms they may serve, and NAC alternate representatives and alternate at-large members may not serve as officers. Any questions or further nominations?
Do you want us to raise our hands, real hands, or the participant hands?
Let's do camera hands. Okay. So Lani, do we need to close the nominations? Is that next?
Yes. And I move we close the nominations and take the slate as is unanimously.
Thank you, Erik. Is there a second? Sharon, second. Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of Ellen Russell continuing as chair for the next year, please show your hands. Okay, all those not in favor? Any abstentions? Okay, thank you. Ellen Russell is confirmed as chair. All those in favor of Joe continuing as vice chair for next year, please show your hands. All those not in favor? Any abstentions? Thank you. Congratulations, Joe.
Ellen, point of order. I just realized alternates aren't supposed to vote, right?
I don't think we've had a situation where.
Yeah, Lani just said you were correct.
Okay,
So,
so if you're an alternate,
yeah.
Thank you for your support, but
Yeah.
please don't raise your hand.
I raised my hand.
Yeah, I just want to mention, Ellen, that I am the regular CCI person now because Travis moved to Tigard and he is more or less resigned from BCCI.
He did, yes, he did resign. So thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe.
And nobody volunteered for it at our election, so I just decided to take it over. Hoping
Well,
to find
welcome
out.
Welcome back, Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. Join for a while, not. Actually, I just soon be alternate, let some younger person, get started and everything, but that's not going to happen for a little while.
That ship sailed a long time ago.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor for Erik Lehr as treasurer for next year, raise your hands. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Erik. And all those in favor of Jonathan continuing as recorder, raise your hand. All those not in favor? Abstentions? Congratulations. All right, thanks everybody. Well done. Got that out of the way. Okay, I don't believe Lani received any changes to the October minutes as we didn't meet in November. Does anyone have any amendments to the minutes? Raise your hand. Anything? Frosty? Do you have something to amend? You're on mute.
My finger didn't work. I just noticed under Kate Arnold's presentation, it says V as in Victor, LM. I think that was supposed to be BLM. And there's a lot of other misspellings, but no big deal.
Any other amendments, adjustments?
Well, the only other thing I would say is, I don't know, Lani, do we have Scrivener's errors where those can be corrected? Not because it doesn't change the content, it just clarifies.
Exactly, I can fix that.
Yeah, so Frosty, if you want to send what you saw to Lani, we can get her done.
There's too many, Kate. I just thought that was probably a more important one to point out because it was representing an organization, regardless of where you fall on it.
I'll go through it. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments about the minutes? Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
Thank you, Frosty.
Second.
Erik? was that-
Second.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes as amended, raise your hands. All those not in favor? Any abstentions? Minutes have been approved. Okay, now we'll turn it over to Councilor Arnold. You have until 7:25. Welcome.
Thank you.
The last one.
This is my last meeting. This is my last liaison meeting as well. I think it's so appropriate that back in 1995, when I first got involved with the city, it was on BCCI. I spent the first 10 years with this group. And I remember Jim way back in the day when you were serving, and we did all this land use, got the land use stuff going. And I worked also with Terry and Sharon on different parts with land use. Sharon and I looked at what Metro does, and we were trying to let people know about some of the things that actually happen in the city that they normally don't hear about. And of course, over the years, you guys have done the voters forums and various outreach programs to the neighborhood. So what a great place to start, and what a great place to end this particular chapter. But next year I get to be a volunteer. So you may still see me from time to time in place to place. I wanted to talk though about a little bit about some of what I've seen in my 16 years on city council. I was first elected and started in 2005. And we've had a lot of good things on the building front, municipal building front. Some of the things that we've accomplished over the years, we'd gotten the library built, the main branch, but we were able to extend to Murray Shoals, and we continued to increase programs. I think we've always had a really strong library system within Beaverton, and that continues to be strong. We also, of course, one of the biggest things I think we did where we saved the city a lot of money was our ability to buy the Beaverton building. We got it, I forget the exact amount, it was over 8 million. I think it was just under $9 million. We bought that building, had to put in a couple million more to fix it up for what we needed. But we basically got that building for less than half of what it would have cost for the city to build it. So that was a great thing. And of course, now it being at Beaverton Central, it just seems so appropriate for that to be there. We've also got the Public Safety Center passed, and we put it in a good spot. And what I talk about is, I talk a lot about disaster preparedness, and that we've got, my geek mind goes to, we've got a 40% chance of that dang earthquake hitting sometime, anytime in the next 50 years. So if we're trying to really take care of our community and our children, we've got to be working on doing work on that. So having the police station now be in a place where it's not, the building's not going to fall on them, and they can actually work with emergency management to respond. They're not going to be victims. They're actually going to be able to be working. So thank goodness we've got that building going. Also to that effect, the Willamette Water Supply Program. Y'all, if you guys know about the Willamette Water Supply Program, raise your hand. If you don't, but I'm just curious. Oh my gosh, pretty good. A lot of you do. Real quick then, the Willamette Water Supply Program is something, it took 20 years of intergovernmental work for us. Water runs in basins. So we have water, we're part of the Willamette Water Basin, and we will have water coming from the Willamette River 30 miles through pipes into our county and being distributed. We are one of the partners. We've only got a small percentage of it, but we have a percentage of it. We're doing some work on this North Line too. And what comes with that is redundancy and resiliency. The redundancy is a second source of water. So if we have issue with our primary source, we at least have this for backup along with our ASR wells. And the resiliency is that it's being built to withstand the earthquake. So the pipes that we're putting in the ground, the intake valve itself won't just, it'll still be functioning. We're working on making sure that all of our ASR wells and our lines will be working, but that's a huge elephant. So we're doing really well on doing work on it, but we have got a long way to go. And we have the whole southern part of the city that we still have to, we haven't even begun to deal with. So cross your fingers and keep water at your house, because if that earthquake hits, you're not going to have it coming through your faucet. So our work, those are the things that I saw that are some of the biggest things. And of course, the Patricia Research Center for the Arts. We talked about that for so many years. And I'll never forget Pat Research saying that, you know, she donated, I think it was like $11 million for that. But she said that she wanted to be there for the grand opening in person, not in an urn. So it took us so many years, but we came up with the transit lodging tax as a way to have specific money that can be used for it. And that thing is going up after all these years. So those are the big buildings I've seen. As far as groups, a few that we've started since I've been on council is the Visioning Advisory Committee. We had a plan for what people wanted to see in the city, and rather than putting it on a shelf, we created a committee that keeps looking and revising and reviewing and seeing how we're going against the things that we've identified. We also started the Diversity Advisory Board, which is pretty key right now with a lot of the conversations that we have going on around diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's big in the city, and I think it'll continue. And your work that you guys have done to help bring to the community what's really happening at the city. That was key for me for figuring out what the heck the city really does. And I just want to thank you for your ongoing work for that, to be that connection between the city and its residents and community members. I always say that good government takes a lot of eyes looking at it. So thank you for helping to bring those eyes. And looking towards the future, I'm hoping that the council will continue the interest and the focus. These are big elephants that are going to take years and years and years and years. One of them is, of course, disaster resiliency, disaster preparedness. I'll probably be working personally on that next year as well. And then sustainability. It's crazy, the world that we're creating. Oh my gosh, in the middle of this pandemic, we've got more hurricanes named than ever before, wildfires that have unseen proportions, including wildfires in the Arctic area of Russia, because the Arctic is melting and the permafrost is melting, and they're having all these crazy fires, and we keep hearing about all the die-off in the ocean. And the latest report is that salmon they're saying that they don't think the dams are necessarily causing the issues, because even salmon coming in from pristine waterways into the ocean are dying off too. So they're beginning to think it's ocean issues, not just dams. So sustainability, man, that's something we're going to have to look at both in the microcosm of the city and in the macrocosm of our community and our country and our world, if we want to have something that our kids are going to have the type of life that we've been lucky to have for their lives. We've got to get our act in gear. And so, and the last thing is, we're still working on it. It'll be really interesting to see how we continue to work on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and how we can make those things real. And it tends to be hard, because there's this saying about the hardest things are what we don't know that we don't know. And a lot of times our biases, we don't realize them. We can't see them. It's hard to see and define. So working with groups like the Diversity Advisory Board and outreach to our community is important to get different perspectives on what the world looks like to everybody. So those are my big things that I'm hoping that people will continue on after I leave. And I look forward to being back in the volunteer ranks with you guys here shortly. So thank you.
Oh, this is Karen. I just wanted to thank you for all the work you've done over the years. Much appreciated.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
I'll second that. Thank you, Kate.
Yeah, well, I'll third that. You did a great job, Kate. It's great to know you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Me too.
And I'll fourth it.
I'll take the fifth.
I'll take the 6.
All right, we have some time at the end of the meeting, so if you have any last words for Kate, any words of thanks, be thinking of those, and we will have time at the end of the meeting. But for now, we're going to move on to Lani, the Mayor's Office report.
Hi. So I just have a few things. I guess the first item is the interim city manager recruitment update. For those of you that remember, we had the city council and city leadership were hosting interviews last month, and we had the finalists were invited to participate in the public social hour December 1st. And I don't know how many of you participated in that. Couple of you. Yeah, and so we also have that available online. And so today, the announcement was made that of who the person that was selected, and it's Kurt Wilson, and he will start December 15th, so this week. And he comes from the city of Stockton, and he has an impressive resume. And there's more details that are available online. And I think I've shared with you in the past, but we keep all of the information about the charter change on and the city manager form of government info details as they're unfolding on our beavertonoregon.gov /charter. So you can go check that out tonight for more details. And then the second item is the One Book, One Beaverton. The book, Just Mercy, A Story of Justice and Redemption by Brian Stevenson was picked for the 3rd annual 2021 One Book, One Beaverton. And so this is gonna be a book that will have activities that will take off to coordinate in January with the library that will coordinate with this book. And for those of you not familiar with this book, it's about a young lawyer spurred by his dedication to justice and mercy. Brian Stevenson, he co-founded the Equal Justice Initiative, which works to end mass incarceration, excessive punishment, and racial inequality. And so, stay tuned for more details to come. But you can also check out the beavertonlibrary.org One Book page for more details that are already in the works. And then lastly, if you haven't already heard about the 217 project, there's the Auxiliary Lanes project that's coming your way. So you can learn more about this from the ODOT, Oregon 217 Auxiliary Lanes project open house. And it's going on just through December 17th. So you'll definitely want to take a peek at that if you haven't already. It's a $134 million project that's going to have construction through the end of next year. And it would be in construction for about 4 years. And the open house info will be held online at highway217.org. And I know we've emailed that information out to you, and I'll put this in the chat so you have all these different webpage links easy at your fingertips. But those are my updates, since Brian already shared with you the Winter Lights info. Any updates or questions for me? Terry?
Have you, since you are under the mayor's office currently,
Yeah.
have you looked at the new organizational chart and where you guys are going to end up?
Well, we'll be renamed, And so we'll have a different name. So it's my understanding that, I think it'll, as far as I know, that will just be renamed with a different title. So we won't be part of the mayor's office. But our new name will be, forgetting it already. It's a long name. So my apology. It's like City Services and Community Engagement. Stay tuned. I'll send you an email on it. I'm blinking on that. But it's at this point we'll still all be together. I think that's obviously the job that in the coming year is the interim city manager, and the city manager will be taking a look at everything. And I don't know, Councilor Arnold, if you want to add anything to this. You've been in all the council meetings that has been having many discussions on this.
Yes, I've been to many. We'll see. We did hire an interim manager. The idea is to help us kind of take a look at how things are. So we shouldn't see a lot of change as far as, massive changes within the city. I think that we're looking more at, getting into that form of government. There's still, more discussion about what that's going to be, and we'll use the help and advice of Kirk as well. And what else to say about that? Of course, you guys who know me know how thrilled I am that this happens. Thank God. Do you know we've only had 3 mayors in 40 years? Isn't that crazy? And the first 2 ended up becoming city managers. So Denny's the third. And so we've been really lucky that we never got that corrupt or even worse, inept manager. I mean, that can cost cities a lot of money and a lot of dysfunction. So it always made sense to me that you have a city manager that oversees the operations, and then you have the council that provides the policy that's used as the overarching goals of the city. So I was very excited, relieved, happy that we passed that charter and got into this form of government. So it'd be interesting for you guys to get some input to see how it goes and hear from some of your perspectives what it looks like.
Erik?
I do have a question for you, Councilor Arnold. What is it that BCCI and the neighborhood associations can do to ensure that the neighborhood program continues as it is and is as robust as it is now?
The best thing, well, that's interesting. Of course, it'll depend on the council. I cannot imagine that this will affect you adversely. One of the things we've prided ourselves on is our outreach to the community, especially through boards like this one. I think it'll probably be a while. Of course, when Kurt gets here, he's starting next week. And of course, we're going to have Christmas. So he's going to be here for a week, and then he'll be home working from there and then coming back again. So you probably won't get the opportunity to see him till next year. But once he gets settled down, I'm sure you'll probably have the opportunity to speak with him when he gets to the point of being ready to look at what we do in the community. When we talk to all candidates, they all stress the importance of being connected with community. So I think you're going to find an advocate in him for what you're doing.
More importantly, we need to continue the work of BCCI as it was envisioned under Senate Bill 100 and going forward.
Yes.
It's enshrined. This is part of our legacy here in Beaverton.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and especially now with the housing code changes too, what that's going to do, that'll be an interesting thing to see on the land use side of things. But I agree, and I like I said, I'd be shocked if you don't. I'm sure you're going to continue to get support to continue doing what you're doing. So he seems.
It sounds like we're going to have to do a lobbying job on council and the new mayor.
And to keep it in front, and then honestly. This is going to be an interesting transition period for 6 months. You'll also have the permanent city manager hired probably somewhere around June. So that's when we're more likely to go into the more, if there'd be structural changes, that's when they're more likely to be seen. But yeah, it doesn't hurt now to keep those channels open and keep communicating, definitely.
Well, it sounds like we have a lot of work ahead of us.
So Karen, and then I saw Frosty. So Karen, then Frosty.
I was wondering, is the interim manager, is he from Beaverton?
No, he's from California. The last big job he had, he actually went to Stockton when they were in bankruptcy and worked there for a number of years. He also he's a professor at, I forget which college, I mean, a Pepperdine or something. I mean, a pretty substantial school. So we'll see. And it was interesting, all of the candidates, they liked the look of the job. Being a city manager can be pretty tough. They often take the fall for things. It can be difficult if you've got a political council. It can be a tough road. So they're always looking for places where it looks like there's not like a lot of dysfunction. And so everyone who came, all of our candidates said, this looks like so much fun because you've got a decent running city. You're changing your form of government. It's not you're having to bring someone in to, pull us out of bankruptcy or deal with something really dysfunctional. So I think that, like I said, the interim should be helping us adjust to this new form. But I think that there should be, pretty good relationships being formed. So hopefully you'll see that happen.
So I would encourage you, if you didn't watch the happy hour meet and greet of the 3 candidates, to go watch that video. There was also an article in last week's Times newspaper that just was a recap of basically the 3 candidates and a little bit more in-depth information about them. So shameless plug for subscribing to the local newspaper.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'll put the link here for you to go check out. We could watch the social hour to see him talk a little bit about his background and why he wanted the job, and then answer just some audience Q&A. So, Frosty.
Yeah, I'm curious. Why are we? Does he know that? Is he actually coming up here for just the interim and is going to go back to Stockton, or does he planning on applying for the job, or why even go through that step? I mean, and by the way, I was chuckling at your comment about if there's politics in a city council. I don't know of any city council in the country that doesn't have some level of politics, but back seriously, Kate, is he moving up here? I mean, that's expensive to move away if he's not going to be here full time. That doesn't make sense. You're muted now.
Yeah. Oops.
Thanks.
Sorry about that. Yeah, he'll definitely be working full time here for 6 months come January. So we're really glad that he was so ready to go that he's actually getting a start before January. That's good to see. Yeah, but we expect him to be here. Whether he'll apply, he can apply for the job. We asked that as a question, and he has said he didn't know. So I'm not sure. I think it'll depend on his life, and it might depend on how well it goes here. So we'll see what happens. But that'll be, it'll be like March before we start hearing very much discussion about where we're going with the city manager. And you'll definitely have the opportunity to be involved in that as well.
It's bizarre.
Well, actually, it isn't. It's a real feather in a cap to be able to put in on a resume that you went in and did a job like that. So, yeah, we had a fair number of candidates.
I'm just glad I'm glad that you didn't preclude the interim from going on to putting in an application to be the city manager, because I know that was the initial intent.
You must wanted to get out of California pretty bad then.
Well, Stockton, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, did I say?
Again, I would watch the
University of Pacific is down there, so that might have been
social hour.
That might have been a college he was at.
So that's definitely.
We have a pharmacy school there too.
Alan, you're gonna have to say your sentence again.
Yeah.
Oh, the social hour is really worth watching because all three candidates did address that, and they all had very different views on it. And they all have very compelling views on that as well. So definitely worth watching. All right, any other questions for Kate? Questions about the manager? Questions for Lani? Okay. We're going to go into the subcommittee reports. We've already had events. There were no matching grants. So we'll turn it over to Terry for land use.
Yeah, thank you. Our land use work group, again, the project is kind of taking a new look at the resources available to NACs when they, especially when they're faced with land use applications in their neighborhood and they need to quickly respond or understand where their position is in with respect to development that occurs in their neighborhood. Anyway, we had a meeting, about 10 of us got together, we Zoomed on December 3rd. And Miles sent along the NAC resource page. And if anyone hasn't reviewed that recently, please take a look at it. It's very comprehensive and there's some really great things in there, including our land use handbook. And so anyway, we're using that NAC resource page kind of as a, that's kind of our launching pad. And we're looking for other resources that could be useful for NAC reps when they're responding to development proposals. And maybe creating different, I guess, platforms for the information to be displayed. We talked about PowerPoints, we talked about decision trees, we talked about other ways that we could relay the information maybe more simply for folks that are new to the land use world that, as anybody knows, can rapidly get very complex. But we also wanted to make sure that we had resources available for folks who are advanced land users and they want to get right to maybe some more advanced topics that are of need. So we're basic, and we also had a couple of really great ideas that I'll just pass along. One thought was that every NAC should kind of have a land use expert in their ranks on their board, so that when faced with development in their neighborhood and the need to respond quickly, that they have an expert on their board who could help them navigate the complexities. Again, recognizing the complexity of the land use process. And so we all have a homework assignment over the Christmas break where we're going to be taking a look at the materials that were already kind of organized, that we already discussed, and we organized them, but it's just in an outline form. And so the goal is in the next month to try to find resources that tap into, well, I guess to really figure out if there are existing resources that need to be maybe better communicated, or if there are new resources that we need to generate in order to, again, help NAC reps access the land use information they need in order to, again, respond to development proposals in their neighborhood and to understand the development process and notices and all of the components of the land use process that affect neighborhoods. And so we're going to be, by January 11th, we're going to be submitting our materials to Lani and Miles that we've developed, again, to kind of fill out our outline form. And then we're going to have another Zoom meeting before our January BCCI meeting. So that'll be at 5:30. And if anyone's interested, please ask to join us at the Zoom meeting on January 25th. Anybody have any questions, or any of the group want to jump in? Sharon.
I'm going to caution people that when they go to the city website, if you do the search field and you put in land use handbook, you're going to get an abbreviated one, as opposed to going through the NAC resource link that Miles had given us, that is like 39 pages or so versus about 7 pages. Just a warning.
And as you can imagine, the 39 page is the comprehensive land use handbook that has a lot of information in there.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to send it back to Lani for a few more updates.
Sure, yeah. So on the BCCI bylaws, the last time we updated them was in 2014. And since then, in the last few years, our city attorney's office has created a standardized boilerplate template for all the boards and commissions in an effort to help standardize all the boards and commissions. And so it's our turn to update our bylaws. And so we try to do these in groupings. So we're going to, along with 5 other boards, be doing this at the beginning of next year. And I wanted to get a few folks that might be interested in working on this behind the scenes so that we can bring you a draft to the January board meeting. And I wondered if there was a couple of you that would like to perhaps do, it'll only be 1 or 2 Zoom meetings in early January and a little bit of research. It wouldn't be much of a time commitment, but I'd love to have a few of you working with me on this once I convert our current bylaws to the boilerplate template. So,
I nominate Jim Persey.
That'd be great. Anyone else would like to join
that.
Jim? And Joe? Joe, is that you seconding or you wanting to join?
We'll get rid of it. Yeah, I'll be glad to join.
Okay, so we got Jim and Joe. If anyone else wants to do this, just let me know by. Sharon, you up for the challenge?
Are the bylaws just for BCCI? So everything that BCCI has to,
Yeah. So we, there are governing document. Yeah.
I would love to be part of it,
just
please.
For BCCI. Great.
We need a woman in there, so I nominate myself.
We do. All right, and if anyone else thinks about it and you're like, I would love to do this, just send me an email and by the next week. In the meantime, I've got Bintu, Joe, and Jim, maybe Sharon. And did I miss anyone else? Did I capture everyone? I'll send you what I've got in the works for us right now, and then we'll meet in early January on Zoom. So thanks, everyone.
All right, now we've got about 10 minutes for any member announcements, anything you'd like to say to Kate as a thank you. You were the liaison to my very first board and a mentor in all the ways. And I'll see you next year. You're not going anywhere. So look forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
So Kate, what's next?
First thing, a break. So we'll see. I'll probably get involved with West Beaverton NAC since that's my neighborhood association. And I find it rather hilarious that I started on BCCI, not in my own NAC. So anyhow, that'll be kind of coming full circle. And disaster preparedness, I'm going to continue to work on. I have some folks that we're talking about. And again, it's something we just need, we need to be ready. And when you're getting prepared for the earthquake, you're also getting prepared for anything else. I mean, you guys have probably heard some of the crazy stories about people who had to leave their houses in Salem because of the fires and some of the crazy stuff that happens. It's worth being prepared at your, at the neighborhood level. And so I'll probably be working on those things would be my guess. But yeah, you'll probably still see me again. I started with this board and it's just so important to be reaching out to the community. So kudos for all that. And I still will be part of it.
That's good to hear, Kate. We appreciate all your efforts and work for these past 16 years. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Amen to that. And I really, really hope that this board, this commission, this committee continues to emphasize the importance of the neighborhoods in Beaverton. And we get the new city manager, interim or permanent, to recognize the importance of neighborhoods and the community involvement and make it a central point of his or her incoming administration. We've had that commitment from our mayors over the past 30 years. We need to continue to have that.
Erik, one thing, it's not the city manager's decision. It's going to be the city council, because you can't vote for the city manager. You've got to vote for city councils. And there's now 7 of them that you would have to get a majority of them to change the city manager. So
I agree with that, Frosty, but city managers have a tendency to form policy. They can move it. And we need to create that policy
and that's
at
why
the
we have
city council
elections.
level.
That's why we have elections.
Well, we need to push it.
Yep.
Very good, Erik.
And Kate, let me just say, I appreciate the fact, I mean, you've been a great supporter of the land use programming done by the city, and I'll include the neighborhood program in that. But I also appreciate your using your expertise in finance when, to me, that's something that just makes my eyes roll up in my head. But I know that whenever we get through the budget season, you're always always asking very good questions, always prepared. And I think that's an example of what I would like to see in any counselors, that they're very prepared and they know the issues and they're willing to speak their minds when the issues come up. So I really appreciate your influence through the years and your
Thank you. That's funny. I say my superhero name is Geek Mom. I love math. I love predictions. The budget, it tells you stories. I see the stories. And I have to laugh. I'll never forget when we first started trying to get people to understand land use. Remember when we were writing like articles that went out? And the first one I wrote, it said, Monica Lewinsky attends planning commission meeting. And that to show you date when we actually started all this land use stuff, or the formal land use stuff. And I wrote at the beginning of it, have you ever noticed that we hear a lot about stuff that doesn't really matter, and then not a lot about stuff that does?
Very good.
So Kate,
yeah,
I'm gonna give you credit with a lot of the land use influence that you had on me in going forward, you know, from my NAC to Planning Commission to BCCI after that. And one of the things that I'll always remember is how we titled that Metro project that we did together. What is Metro doing to you?
That's right. The other one, trying to explain how Metro interacts with the city. Yeah.
That's right. We decided to do a little bit of a catchy one to get people's attention.
Yeah.
So, but I do appreciate all that you've taught me and all that you have done. And also moving forward, I would love to get involved with you on disaster preparedness.
Yay!
Before.
Yep. And anybody else interested at in your neighborhood, I'd love to do that. Again, I look forward. The thing I see about, I mean, I liked a lot of the stuff with the council, but it is a lot, and it's nice to be able to be working with altruistic groups, right? To take care of our neighbors. That's what I'm looking forward to. So yay, I'm so glad to have the opportunity to continue to work with you and others as well on stuff for our neighbors.
Thank you, Kate. Thanks for everything.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can I say a few words?
Yes, go ahead, Bing.
Yeah, Kate, thank you very much for your service. You always stand up for the people. When you speak up for the police officer, Jason. I really respect your courage. We have been discussed that in the social media. We really respect you on stand up for the people. Thank you very much. And yeah, wish everybody a happy holiday season. I'll see you around.
Thank you, Bing.
Bing. Anyone else? Well, my 2 cents is that if Sharon and Kate are going to be in disaster preparedness, if I was an earthquake, I would be scared to pieces. So got that going for us. All right, we're going to move on to actionable events and dates to remember. Joe or Sharon, who has that tonight?
Sharon's the lead on this one from now on. Go to it, Sharon.
Okay, let me see if I can do this here. Okay, number 1 is the shred event. For future ones, using matching grants and other resources, please get in touch with Miles for any joint ventures. Please, among NACs, coordinate a potential one of those. Number 2 is volunteer fair. If there's any feedback that is beyond what we discussed tonight, I guess, Lani, do you want that or do you want it to go to Brian directly?
It doesn't matter. So if, did he give his email address?
No, he didn't. So maybe to Lani, because you can funnel that to him.
And I can forward it to him just to make it easy on you guys. Yeah.
Okay. Number 3, congratulations to our new returning officers. Number 4, kudos to Kate for all the work that you're doing and continued success. And we look forward to working with you in a different capacity. I lost track of whatever. Next one, Lani put on the chat notes about all the different things about the interim city manager, the One Book One Beaverton, check with the library on those. And then the city, the 217 project, there's an open house on the 17th. Go to highway217.org.
And it ends, I'm sorry, it ends on the 17th. It's on now.
Oh, okay. Never mind. Next one is watch the link in regards to the interim city manager. Next one is any kinds of input you want to have on land use. Terry Lawler is the person, but think in terms of your particular NAC. Decide who's an expert in this and move them forward and along in maybe this process to be our conduit between BCCI and the NACs and on land use. Bylaws, Bintu, Jim, and Joe are going to be doing that. If anybody else has some feedback, get that to Lani as well. And I believe that's it. Except I want to say one thing that has nothing to do with this. I want to thank the city, all the boards and commissions, officer or volunteers have been given in lieu of a dinner that we would normally be attending, a gift card. And I personally want to take my gift card and apply it to, or give it to somebody who is more in need. I have been in touch with Consuelo Starr. She's the community outreach person with the Beaverton Police Department, and she has a number of Beaverton related organizations that she could help me vet, my card to somebody in need. If anybody else wants to join me in that, this is offline. This is absolutely volunteer, has nothing to do with BCCI except for the fact that you're getting a gift card. Please let me know.
Great idea, Sharon. Thanks.
Absolutely a fine idea. Thank you, Sharon.
You bet. So if anybody is interested, I don't want to make it anything more than a voluntary opportunity. So consider it. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you to all of you too for all of your volunteer help this year. It hasn't been the easiest as we shifted virtually, but you've been great to work with, and we just really appreciated everything you brought to the table and your expertise. And so I know I've really appreciated you, and I know so many people at the city, from city council, mayor on down, have just really said many times over how much they appreciate you. And I'm sorry we can't do our dinner in person. Normally this next week we would be doing our annual tradition of going and having dinner together. So I'm kind of bummed to see that, but next year we'll do this in 2021. But just want to say thank you. I really appreciate you.
We've had a year worth of disaster planning already. Just work with a CERT program, Kate.
Oh, I signed up for when they do it next.
Yeah, it's really great.
I have to tell you one funny thing. When I first got on council, I had my husband do the CERT program since I didn't have time. And he's not a man of many words. We're on the opposite sides of the spectrum. So I asked him after he was done with it, I said, "So what did you learn?" And he said, "I learned if you're at one of your metro meetings on the other side of the river when that earthquake hits, we won't see you for at least a month."
Better learn how to swim.
Yeah.
One benefit of all of this is that I think we ought to do the voters forum virtually from now on out.
Yeah, I've said many times, there's been all kinds of silver linings that will come about this, and which usually happens. Obviously, there's a lot of bad things that happen, but there's a lot of good things that we'll take from this. And especially, being in the pharmacy industry, I am absolutely blown away by the antiviral technology that's been developed, and it's not using any live viruses or attenuated or killed viruses. It's absolutely phenomenal, and you're going to see more and more vaccines come out that will be for other types of viruses because of this technology. It's just mind-blowing how quickly. I mean, this typical vaccine takes 5 to 10 years. And I was very involved with the polio vaccine, getting the sugar cube at Kennedy Grade School, which is now a McMinimans.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Just a quick thing about this new RNA thing. We are so lucky that it existed. And I remember when they were talking about it, it was last spring, and it was still a question mark because it hadn't, I mean, they'd been working on it for years, but they hadn't created the virus. So it was a question mark. And now here it is, thank God. And we're only where we are because we have that one.
But they're using your mRNAs, messenger RNAs, which are just a piece of it. And so you're not having to use the real virus. So it's phenomenal. It's just amazing.
All right.
Cool, geeky stuff. Yeah.
Thank you, everyone.
I want to jump in about a land use matter real quick.
Go ahead.
It's kind of a big deal, well, at least in my part of the world. This came from next door, and there is a site that the In-Out Burger has chosen along Beaverton Hillsdale Highway. And if anybody's familiar, it's right next to the Chick-fil-A that recently was, and the Target, kind of just east of 217. Well, anyway, if you've ever been by the place in Kaiser, you know they attract a lot of people through their drive-through. So it's going to be an interesting traffic. Anyway, there's going to be a CPO3. It's being reviewed by Washington County. And there is a Zoom call on December 22nd where they're going to be at 6 p.m. And I imagine you could find it through Washington County's land use. And if you're interested in getting on the Zoom call, because that's going to be it's going to be a very interesting and widely impactful use.
The newspaper article said it got moved to December 28th. Have you heard that?
No, I have not heard that. So there was something in the paper?
In the business, in the Portland Business Journal.
Okay.
What's the date of what you're seeing?
December 22nd. This is Stan Hausman from the CPO program. Well, anyway, I guess maybe check the CPO program, neighborhood meetings for this CPO 3, I think this is. Anyway, and
So
participate.
this is a county issue, not a city issue.
Very interesting though, because Beaverton reviewed Chick-fil-A right next door. So I don't quite understand why the county is reviewing this one, but they've asked for the action to be taken through Washington County.
Terry, it's because of the location. It's not in the city. If you look at the way the city is set up, there's a cutout and Chick-fil-A is in the city. There's a drop moving along Beaverton Hillsdale Highway. And that space right there with the 2 restaurants is in the county, not in the city. That's why, because we actually asked for the In-N-Out folks to come to the DWRW NAC and no response yet.
Huh, that's shocking. Oh, I mean, well, I guess it's not shocking, but anyway. Yeah, so I guess CPO is the means by which we'll find out more about this and what exactly it is they're going to be reviewing.
You said Stan Houseman. He's someone I work with for disaster preparedness. I'll send an email, unless there's 2 Stan Housemans out there. I'll send an email and CC you and he can let you know what he knows about timing.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And to Rick's point, Dean Whitford Raleigh West has invited In-N-Out Burger to come to the January board meeting. So we're hoping they'll take the NAC up on that invite.
Yeah. Thanks.
Also, there's been a huge number of Amazon phony calls from Molly. It's been talked about a lot on Nextdoor. They're all bogus, so don't. And there's been some suggestions on how you can fight those bogus calls by contacting your telephone service. They have certain codes. Maybe Rick knows more about how to do that than I do, but we were getting at least a half a dozen to a dozen calls every day saying that somebody in Dayton, Ohio had bought something for $721 and a few cents, and dial 1 and tell us your credit card number or something. So watch out for those, especially this time of year.
We'll see.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever.
All right. Thank you, everyone. It's been a pleasure serving you this year, and I truly appreciate the honor of serving you next year. It's been an honor tonight. Happy holidays. Cheers.
Yes. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.
Yes.
Take
Happy
care.
holidays.
Bye.
everybody.
Holidays.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Happy holidays.
Thank
Bye.
you for joining us.